My name is Leslie Spencer with AARP Florida. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. I am thrilled and excited to be joined by my friend again, Tasha Carter, who is Florida's insurance consumer advocate. And so, Tasha, the last time we spoke last year, you had a different role. And since then, you've been promoted to this role by CFO Jimmy Patronis. Can you tell me a little bit about your new role and how you assist consumers?
Good morning, Leslie, and thank you for having me again. Yes, a lot has definitely changed since we last spoke. I was honored to be appointed as Florida's insurance consumer advocate by Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis last August. As the insurance consumer advocate, I represent and advocate for consumers regarding any insurance matter. That advocacy also includes making changes and creating legislation to improve the consumer claims experience, educating and informing consumers through targeted initiatives, and representing consumers at insurance rate hearings to ensure that insurance rates are fair and appropriate. I welcome consumers to contact me directly if they have any issues with any insurance that they're experiencing. I also am here and available to assist consumers with all things insurance.
That is wonderful. That is such an important role, and we're just thrilled that you are taking the lead on this. And before I ask my next question, I just want to let viewers know that if you have a question during the webinar today, you can put it in the comments section, whether you're viewing this on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll be sure to have time to answer those questions. So no fear about not getting your questions answered. So Tasha, we are already in hurricane season. We've had several storms already. We have something that is currently churning out there right now in the Atlantic. So we're all thinking, what should we do to plan and prepare? And we often think about getting our house in order and getting food and supplies, but we also need to think about important things that protect our homes, such as homeowners insurance and flood insurance. So what should we be doing right now?
So, yes, this season has been extremely active already. I mean, there were two storms formed before hurricane season even started. And just last week, we named our seventh storm, which developed into Hurricane Hannah. And so you're absolutely correct. With another storm turning in the Atlantic, now is the perfect time for consumers to review their homeowners and flood insurance policies to ensure they have the coverage they need to repair or rebuild after a storm. Renters should also ensure that they have proper coverage to cover their personal belongings and contents as well. In reviewing your policy, you want to make sure that you know what your policy covers and what it excludes. Oftentimes, I tell consumers that the worst time to find out what your policy covers or doesn't cover is after you filed a claim. Most policies contain specific exclusions, and you want to be aware of what those exclusions are and then determine whether or not you should purchase additional coverage in order to cover those gaps. Additionally, consumers should know the amount of their hurricane deductible. Typically, the hurricane deductible is either 2, 5, or 10% of the amount of insurance covering the home, and oftentimes it can be several thousands of dollars. As equally important is for consumers to complete a home inventory to detail and document their personal belongings to ensure that they have the coverage they need in order to protect themselves in a storm. A detailed listing of their contents can also not only help them figure out how much insurance they need, but it can also serve as a convenient record, and it can also help make the claims filing process that much easier. Now let's take just a few moments to touch on flood insurance. And so flood insurance is a perfect tool because, as most consumers mistakenly think, homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. And so consumers should consider purchasing flood insurance to protect their home and personal property in the event that their home is flooded. According to FEMA, just 1 inch of water can cause up to $25,000 worth of damage. 18 inches or more can cause damage to the electrical system, the heating and cooling system, and appliances. Now, I've heard from a lot of insurance consumers who are hesitant to purchase flood insurance coverage. Some of them feel as if it's too expensive. Others think that it's only necessary if you live in a designated flood zone. And others mistakenly believe that their homeowner's insurance coverage will cover flood damage. All of those are myths. Anywhere it rains, it can flood. Florida has the longest seacoast in the United States. We have very expensive coastal real estate, and most of our land is very close to sea level. So all of those factors make the entire state of Florida a flood risk. According to FEMA, more than 20% of flood insurance claims that are filed by homeowners who do not live in a designated flood zone. Additionally, flood insurance is more affordable than most consumers think. Consumers can contact an insurance agent who can provide them with flood insurance quotes from the National Flood Insurance Program and provide them with quotes from private insurance companies who also offer flood insurance. And so, with the cyclone churning in the Atlantic now, and with Florida being in the projected path of that storm, it's even more important for consumers to take the time to review their policies and make any necessary changes to ensure that they're adequately prepared. And one other item, Leslie, that I want to make sure that I mention to our viewers is if you purchase a flood insurance policy, typically there is a 30-day waiting period before that policy goes into effect. And similarly, if you need to make changes to your current homeowner's insurance policy or purchase new coverage, unfortunately, you will not be able to make any changes if there has been a tropical storm or hurricane watch warning issued for any part of the state. And so that's why it's very important for consumers to take the time now to review the policy.
Thank you, Tasha. Those are really great points, and I hope all of our listeners paid close attention to that, and many will exit this webinar in a little while and go through that checklist that you mentioned. I think it's really important to include renters in that. So oftentimes renters may believe that their landlord would insure their items, but the landlord may insure their building, not
Correct.
the renter's personal property.
Yes.
Also really good to point out the timeline for making any changes or additions to your policy. I think to your point, flood insurance is not necessarily just for people who live near the water. So really good points. Thank you so much for expounding on that as well. Something else I want to ask you about, we've heard a lot about this over the last several years, is something called assignment of benefits. And this is a tool that is used or was supposed to be used to help make rebuilding quicker and easier for homeowners and kind of get some of the red tape out of the way. But what we have heard over the years is that some unscrupulous contractors have used this tactic to defraud, sorry if I'm stating that incorrectly, homeowners. Can you tell us a little bit about assignment of benefits and how it is supposed to be used?
Sure, absolutely, Leslie. So an assignment of benefits is a legal contract that allows a policyholder to transfer their insurance rights to a third party. AOBs are commonly used by contractors, roofers, and water remediation companies. An AOB provides the third party with the authority to file a claim, make repair decisions, collect insurance payments, and even file a lawsuit against the insurance company, all without the involvement of the homeowner. Now, as you mentioned, signing AOB can be beneficial for a policyholder and help them navigate the claims process successfully. However, if it is misused, it can absolutely lead to harmful consequences for the homeowner. Unfortunately, unscrupulous vendors and contractors have abused and misused this useful legal tool designed specifically to help homeowners navigate the insurance claims process. An AOB can become harmful when the third party attempts to take advantage of the insurance company by filing a fraudulent claim for work not performed, completing repair work with subpar materials or quality, inflating their pricing, and filing a fraudulent lawsuit. Unfortunately, insurance fraud impacts all of us, and the Coalition Against insurance fraud recently estimated that at least $80 billion in fraudulent claims payments have been made annually. And who ultimately pays? Consumers.
That is staggering. That number is absolutely staggering. So, to your point about assignment of benefits and how it should be used and how it should work in a perfect system, can you tell us how a homeowner should know if they should indeed sign over the assignment of benefits and to their contractor?
Absolutely. And so for several years, Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis advocated for AOB reform in order to protect homeowners. Last year, the Florida legislature passed and Governor Ron DeSantis signed House Bill 7065. That new law went into effect on July 1st of 2019, and it provides homeowners with some valuable tools to protect themselves from unscrupulous vendors who attempt to pressure them into signing over their insurance policy rights. The new law includes requirements that outline how an AOB should be written and what provisions should be included or not included. And one of the primary requirements that the new law includes is a notification that the AOB advise consumers that they are giving up specific rights under their policy to a third party. It also outlines the cancellation options that are now available to homeowners if they are seeking to cancel the AOB as well. And so these are tremendous additional values that the new law provides to homeowners in order to further protect them when they are engaging in an AOB and entering into a contract with a third party. And so one of the things that consumers should definitely do if they are contemplating entering into an AOB is they want to make sure that they thoroughly vet the third party. You want to ensure that the third party is licensed and they have proper liability and workers' compensation insurance. And then you also want to make sure that they review my AOB Consumer Resource Guide that outlines some additional tips and information for consumers. It also outlines all of the AOB requirements that are currently included in the new law, and it also includes some red flags on what consumers should watch out for. So please feel free to review my new AOB consumer resource that's available on my website.
That is terrific. Thank you. And it is so important that consumers have this support now. So if they enter into an agreement and change their mind, they have the recourse. But and also knowing going into these contracts what all the expectations are and what their rights are as consumers. I really think that's important. I hope folks will look at that resource guide. I'm sure it's going to contain a lot of great information. I want to remind folks on the call today, if you have a question, please go ahead and put it in the chat box, and we will absolutely do our best to answer all of them during this webinar today. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to view it again on our YouTube and Facebook channels. I just want to reiterate that again because maybe not everybody was able to join live today. So, Tasha, I want to talk about some lessons learned that we've had from previous hurricanes. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of practice over the last several years, whether it's Michael in the Panhandle or Irma that hit most of the state. What are some of the lessons learned, and what is your office hearing most about from callers?
Well, following Hurricanes Irma and Michael, many of the policyholders became very frustrated as they attempted to navigate the insurance claims process. And unfortunately, I am still receiving requests for assistance on Hurricane Michael claims. Consumers still are unpaid and they are continuing to work to resolve those claims. The majority of the complaints that we've received involve claim handling delays, lack of communication from the insurance companies, multiple company adjusters being assigned to the claims, repeated requests for documentation, and unsatisfactory claim settlement offers. Now, I've worked diligently with insurance companies to address these concerns and to ensure that improvements are implemented so that consumers don't have to experience claim delays in the aftermath of the next hurricane. Prior to hurricane season, I met with several of the top homeowners insurance companies to discuss their disaster preparedness and catastrophe plans. I wanted to provide guidance and feedback to them to ensure that consumers can have the confidence that their claims will be handled timely and appropriately if they're impacted by a storm this season. And so I was pleased with the level of improvements that the insurance companies have implemented, specifically as it relates to how they're going to handle their disaster claims going forward. Um, Definitely the implementations and improvements that they've made as it relates to reducing claim delays. Also, new communication strategies that they've developed to improve the level of communication with their policyholders and also the frequency of that communication as well. And then lastly, with a lot of the innovative techniques that insurance companies have implemented in response to COVID-19. Now, one of the ways that I am educating consumers as the insurance consumer advocate is through my new disaster preparedness initiative called Plan, Prepare, Protect. Are you disaster ready? As Floridians, we know that disasters are inevitable, and tropical storms and hurricanes, unfortunately, are an inescapable part of life in Florida. And so, my goal is to empower consumers to take the steps to ensure they are prepared to withstand the storm and recover as quickly as possible. And so, through this initiative, I provide actionable steps to equip consumers for the impact that a storm may have on them and their family. And also, the initiative includes specific tips, statistics, pertinent updates, and resources, all designed to help consumers successfully weather the storm.
That is wonderful. Thank you. I encourage all of our viewers today to make use and avail themselves of that resource. It's the price we pay for living in paradise in Florida. It's just a part of our world. Hurricanes and tropical storms and fires and all of these things do fall under disasters. So we need to be prepared for all of them. And I guess an additional challenge this hurricane season is coronavirus. And that is certainly making preparation and recovery, should we fall victim to a storm, it will make it that much more difficult. What should viewers keep in mind right now as it relates to COVID-19 and hurricane preparedness? You think there are any special measures that folks should take right now?
Definitely, Leslie. I view the combination of the COVID-19 pandemic and hurricane season as the imperfect storm. We were all aware of the definitive start of hurricane season, but what we were unable to predict was the arrival and the significant impact that COVID-19 would have on our lives. Get Ready Florida recently conducted a survey, and 73% of the respondents indicated that they were very concerned about potential hurricanes this season. Additionally, 51% indicated that they were more concerned this year than last year. And I definitely do think that the COVID-19 pandemic has added to those concerns. And so, as I've communicated with insurance companies, I have learned that insurance companies have done a great job of adapting and adjusting their business models and their processes to essentially incorporate COVID-19 into this hurricane season. For example, they have included virtual training sessions for adjusters and other personnel. They have implemented virtual platforms that includes the ability for homeowners to file claims remotely and virtually. Also, it allows their adjusters to be able to adjust claims virtually as well without having to actually physically go inside the home to review and inspect damage. And so those are absolutely some very unique ways that the insurance companies have made the adjustments to incorporate COVID-19. Additionally, insurance companies, as I shared a little earlier, they have modified their communication and their messaging to their homeowners to ensure that that messaging not only focuses on the traditional hurricane preparedness, but it also focuses on preparing for COVID-19 and how that will impact homeowners as well. I know that there's a lot of concern from homeowners about the possibility of having to evacuate in the face of a pending storm. And of course, evacuation provides and brings about some additional concerns for homeowners from the perspective of, whether or not it's safe to evacuate amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and potentially be exposed and be around a lot of individuals that you are not familiar with. And so some of the suggestions and feedback that I would share with consumers is to do your homework now, to contact your local officials and determine what evacuation options are available in your area. Also, find out what their safety protocols are so that you're prepared. In addition, as homeowners are preparing their disaster preparedness kits, they should also encompass some additional items that are COVID-19 related. For example, face coverings, hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, gloves, and a thermometer potentially. So all of these things will definitely be a huge value when consumers are dealing with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic while also trying to protect and prepare themselves for an impending hurricane.
Right. Thank you, Tasha. Those are really great tips about items to include in our hurricane kit, in our stay and go kit, whether you stay at home or whether you find yourself having to evacuate to a shelter or some other facility, making sure you have those additional COVID-19 items in there. And we are getting a couple of questions from folks, so don't worry, we will have time to answer those questions. But Tasha, earlier you talked about when we were talking about assignment of benefits, you were indicating that folks should thoroughly vet contractors and third parties to ensure that they have the proper insurance and coverage. Oftentimes, after a disaster, we lose Wi-Fi and connectivity. So what can folks possibly do now or proactively or even after a storm to check out contractors?
Well, I think consumers can definitely do their homework now. They can absolutely research contractors, obtain referrals from trusted family and friends, vet those contractors, because it makes a huge difference if you've done that homework before you actually need it. What we saw after Hurricane Michael is there was a shortage of available contractors to be able to complete the repair work for those homeowners that were impacted in the panhandle. And so I definitely strongly suggest for consumers to do their homework now, and so that they can identify local contractors in their area, speak with them, vet them, and then definitely log their contact information into their cell phones so that information is readily available to them, even if Wi-Fi is not available.
Terrific, terrific. Thank you for that. And I know that we have some information from, I think that's coming up on the screen. Yes, Department of Business and Professional Regulation, where you can make those inquiries. So thank you for that as well. So let's suppose a consumer or a homeowner has discovered they indeed have been scammed or defrauded. What can they do? Do they have any recourse?
Well, definitely they should report any suspicious activity immediately. That includes making sure that you document the name of the scammer, any contact information that you may have. Also, make sure that you hold on to the business card or flyer that was provided by the scammer if they did in fact share one. Also, consumers should remember that they should report all types of complaints to the required regulatory agency. For example, if there is a complaint against a contractor, as you just shared, Leslie, they should contact the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. If there is a complaint against an insurance professional, consumers should contact the Department of Financial Services. And if there is a complaint regarding price gouging, which often occurs in the aftermath of a hurricane, or they've been impacted or contacted by a charitable donation scam, consumers should also contact the Attorney General's office. Now, one other note that I want to definitely make is that consumers should also be aware of individuals that may be representing themselves as official representatives of federal, state, or local organizations. For example, individuals that may be representing themselves as being a part of FEMA. Individuals that are representing those organizations and are affiliated with those organizations should definitely have official identification badges that display their pictures and their names, and they should readily provide proof of those identification badges when asked. Additionally, consumers should also keep in mind that no official representatives of a federal, local, or state organization should ask you for personal information, whether it's your social security number or your bank account information, and they definitely should not ask for payment for any services that they are providing. Leslie, you're on mute.
Ah, I knew I was going to do that. Thank you for catching that.
Yes.
Thank you for the joy of live broadcasting. um, I was saying it's really important for folks always to remember not to give out any personal information. And if they have any doubt about that, call the entity directly, whether it's
Absolutely.
FEMA or any government agency. Call them directly and say, do you need this information? So thank you for that.
Yes.
Before I get to questions, I would just want you to recap kind of the top 3 things that from our conversation today that folks should do right now to prepare for disasters.
Well, definitely they should review their insurance policy, understand their coverage, and make any necessary changes. They should also complete a home inventory, and they should also understand what assignment benefits is and how it works, and thoroughly vet any potential contractors that they may use in the event that they are impacted by a storm. And then lastly, make sure to remember to incorporate any COVID-19 related precautions and items into their disaster plans.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I wanted to get to questions from our viewers. From Carmen, Carmen is asking, does the Department of Insurance assist consumers with literally walking them through their insurance policy so that they can understand what they have in an insurance policy?
Absolutely, Carmen. Great question, and thank you for asking it. Yes, the Department of Financial Services has a division of consumer services that is staffed with more than 100 insurance specialists that would be able to sit with you and walk you through your insurance policy, explain the various coverages that you have, and it also explain the specific exclusions that are outlined in your policy as well. And so you can definitely reach out to the Division of Consumer Services through their insurance consumer helpline, and they would absolutely be able to assist you.
That is wonderful. That's a terrific resource for homeowners to take advantage of because there's so much fine print in an insurance policy, and
Yes.
they use jargon and language that we may not all be familiar with. So what a terrific resource. Thank you for that. Another caller also asked to make sure that we provide your office's contact information. So we will be sure to put that up on the screen because folks are wanting to know how to contact you directly, Tasha. So you may be getting a larger influx of phone calls today.
well, Leslie, I welcome consumers to contact me. I answer questions, offer guidance, and contact the insurance company directly to advocate on their behalf. So they are more than welcome to contact my office, and we will do everything that we can to assist them with their insurance issues.
Oh, thank you so much. And I have a follow-up question from Carmen. Should the insurance company bear that burden instead of the Department of Insurance, meaning explaining your policy to you? What if they tell you that they don't have time to walk you through the insurance policy that you purchased from their company? Great point.
Yeah, that's another excellent question, Carmen. Actually, the insurance professional that should be available to you to help explain your policy and walk you through those particular coverages is an insurance agent. And so an insurance agent is educated and experienced and knowledgeable about the various types of insurance policies. And they would be able to take the time to actually walk you through that policy, explain the coverages, talk with you about what contents and items that you have, if there are any special items that you need additional insurance for, and also make sure that you are adequately insured but not overinsured. So feel free to reach out to an insurance agent and they can absolutely walk you through your policy. Now, there are insurance companies that have specific insurance agents that are appointed to only sell insurance policies for that individual company. And so you want to do a little research depending upon who your company is to determine whether or not they have special dedicated insurance agents or if they're insurance agents that have the opportunity to be able to sell policies for multiple companies. But they would be the ones that would be most knowledgeable about your policy and would have the time to walk you through your policy. And essentially, that's their job.
That's a really good point. And as consumers, we should really do our due diligence when we're talking to insurance companies to simply ask the question. I would like to have the opportunity to really walk through this with an agent. Is that something that you can do for me? And just make that ask up front. And if you're not getting a warm and fuzzy feeling back, maybe then you look for a different insurance company. Because to your point, Tasha, that is their job. Absolutely. I know that we have shared your contact information. It's on our information on Facebook. We're going to post all of this on Facebook and YouTube as well. So don't worry if you didn't catch this information the first time. It will be on our sites. Before we end our program today, Tasha, I want to thank you so much for being with us again. This is our third year doing this, and while this year feels a little different, we're not in the same room. I just want to thank you so much for your insight and your wisdom and your advocacy on behalf of Florida homeowners and consumers. I cannot thank you enough. Any final words for our viewers today?
Well, thank you so much, Leslie. I have appreciated the time that we've spent together, and I appreciate your support and the support of AARP Florida on helping us to share and educate consumers around the state. It's important to me as an advocate that consumers are informed, they're knowledgeable, and they're empowered, because I sincerely believe that an educated consumer can be their best advocate. And so everything that I do is to make sure that we educate consumers, empower them so that they know what questions to ask, they know how best to protect themselves, and they can be prepared to make informed decisions. So I thank you so much over the years for allowing me to come on and communicate directly with your members, and for the support of Florida AARP in allowing me to be able to educate consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. And I know I've seen a couple of comments from folks asking about when they will be able to listen and see this recording again. It will be available right away on both AARP's Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So wherever you're viewing this right now, you'll be able to view it again right away. There was a lot of great information in here today. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us. Be safe, be healthy. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.